We inform our viewers on stories that affect them and their daily lives. But how does it get onto your screen?
How? It could be the title of a new children's...
Good idea.
No, it would never catch on. This is How. 9 a.m. The Meridian Newsroom and Adam Clark, the content editor, briefs the news team on the news stories that'll be running in the main programme at 6 o'clock.
We've got Brighton, Maidstone, Christine on the line. Anyone else join us for the morning meeting this morning?
I'm responsible for news gathering for the Meridian News operation. That involves sourcing stories, chasing stories, fixing up logistics, sending out reporters, correspondents, camera crews and satellite trucks.
So the Arctic Convoy story, I know we've done stuff on the Arctic Convoy last week where we spoke to Mike Hancock, the MP, who is campaigning for the medal to be produced for the veterans sooner rather than later because of their age. Time is running out for many of them.
I think a good news editor's got to be somebody who's reactive, able to work under extreme pressure, has good sort of knowledge of an area, good contacts.
We have now got a chap in Southampton, Lawrence Smith, 86, one of the veterans, obviously desperately waiting for his medal before time runs out for him.
Well, I mean, it's a story about a veteran from the Second World War who's waiting for a campaign medal. He's been waiting years for it. I mean, it's one of those things where people will tap into, I think, this chap's plight in the sense that he feels that he's been slightly disservice, really, that he's served his country, but he hasn't had the official recognition for it. So I feel that it's a good human interest story, which I'm sure will resonate with our viewers.
So we've got lots of archive on this story of the veterans marching down on Downing Street. So it should be a good case study today, which Martin Dowse is going to do.
10 a.m. News correspondent Martin Dowse has been deployed to war veteran Lawrence Smith's house to interview him for the Arctic Convoy story.
The main problem with somebody like this as an interview is he's going to want to talk and talk, and they've already asked for something for lunch. But we'll see how we get on. Camera, tripod. I'll go back for the microphone. I'll probably need a light as well. I actually find this what many people would think would be the easier interview. I actually find that that's more difficult than if you're out and about and something's happening and you're going with it, and I actually find this more difficult. So Lawrence, what I'm going to do, I need you to sit in that position. So you went up to Liverpool, and this was on board HMS Forester. And what type of ship was HMS Forester?
HMS Forester's destroyer.
Martin alters his question slightly to get a stronger soundbite from Lawrence that'll help the audience connect to his story.
Say, on your destroyer, did you feel more protected, and did you feel sorry, if you like, for the people that were on the more vulnerable ships?
When you're 18 years of age, you haven't got those fears. That doesn't come into it. You only think about it later on in life.
All right.
Oh, Fred Dinage.
Fred Dinage, that's the one. Yeah.
Okay.
All the best.
I know.
Yeah. Cheers, Lawrence. Bye.
How did that go?
It was okay, but kind of as predicted, quite long to get what we wanted out of the interview. But then you have to do that. You have to be patient. Eventually, the sound bites come, but you have to work your way round to them.
Time is short. Martin now has 2 hours to get back to his base 30 minutes away and start putting the story together. Now, back at base, Martin needs to write the script to the story, edit a 2-minute VT together before getting the finished story back to the main newsroom in time to make the programme in 2 hours' time.
The way this reads at the moment is there's the footballers' trial, but that looks like it may or may not be happening because that's in blue, and then we're underneath it, so that means they're likely to end up leading on our story. If you've got all day to edit a package, you can bet your life you'll take all day to edit a package, and you'll make it. You'll be fine tuning it and all this sort of thing. If you've got 1 hour to edit a package, you'll edit it in 1 hour, but it just won't be as refined. It just doesn't make for a good interview if you're going to be behind the viewfinder. You know, with something like that, especially with an old guy that needs some talking up, you need to get round in front of the camera to talk to him. The way I'll approach a piece like this is I'll listen to the interviews and pick out the clips that you think are going to hold the piece together, and then write your bits in between it that basically just string them together and make his clips flow nicely and make sense and tell the story. I'm used to working away from the newsroom. I always think my edits are better when I'm on my own than they are when I'm in the newsroom, because there are so many other distractions. There are so many people to interrupt you, and I always just think if it's just you and your stuff and an edit machine, it just makes for better edit, because you can focus more on what you're doing without any of the peripheral distractions. So we're ready to send the piece now. So for this I have to use this little device and enter a pin number, and that gives me a code 23063, and then that's off on its way to Whiteley. It goes over the Wi-Fi, sends over the Wi-Fi. Once I've put the code in, then it'll launch itself. I've got a good strong Wi-Fi signal here, so it should take about 10 minutes to send, and I can sit here and watch the percentages going through. You see it's going through quite quickly, 27, 28%. When it's reached 100%, that's it gone from my laptop, and then, well, it can take up to 5 minutes to appear their end, and that's the nerve-wracking time when it's in limbo somewhere. It's left my laptop, but it hasn't landed there yet. And then they'll give me a ring when it has landed and put me out of my misery.
Back in the Meridian newsroom, 1 hour until air.
Studio 2 traffic.
Traffic.
Is the Arctic Convoys packaging?
Yeah, just come in, matey.
Cheers.
No worries. Well, traffic is probably the pivotal area in the whole newsroom. It's where material comes in and goes out. We rendezvous with the news editor to book lines, book satellite trucks, send feeds to other regions, take feeds from other regions, and then we relay this to the gallery for any footage or lives that come through. So it's pretty much probably the most important one in the whole building. Don't believe what anyone else says. So there you go.
Well, I'm the assistant producer. I'm choosing what stories we're going to run, putting them in a running order, writing the link and dealing with the reporters. Well, basically, I shall put it into the running order and write a rough link to that story, which of course I have to liaise with the reporter to check that I've got the facts right, because he's the one that's on the ground. And through technology, and I'm not going to go into all the details, that package lands in this building, but we have to clip it up, which basically just means taking the package, putting it onto a number, which then goes into a computer. The computer reads that number, and then that goes out on air. There's always a buzz in the newsroom because you might have a breaking story, and there's a real great team spirit.
Okay, saying as you're coming through, if you know, have you? Okay. I'm the head of news for ITV News Meridian, which means I have overall responsibility for managing the operation. Essentially, it's one role, working alongside an operations manager, that covers everything that we do from here across our output, online and on air. The thing I enjoy working about news, I think most of all, is the people. I've been fortunate enough to be with ITV for 27 years, and nearly every day of those I work with Fred Dinage, which can't be bad. But no, the people and the fact that every day is different. As the head of news, you are the conductor of the orchestra, but like any good performance, you rely on every performer to actually end up with a great show. Regional news has a huge part to play in the fabric of our communities, because we and the BBC are the only people that do regional news. None of the other 280 channels that people can get through their box can offer up regional news. So we're giving them something which is virtually unique, and they seem to like it, so long may that continue.
Here we go then, in 10 seconds. 9, 8,
20 minutes to air.
5, 4, 3, and 2.
My job title here at ITV Meridian is Programme Director, which basically means I lead the technical team and ensure that the programme is transmitted as close to the run order created by the editorial team.
Do you have
Robbie, can you start in a bit tighter on 4?
The heated exchange.
Pan it left.
When everything starts to go wrong, that's when your talent really comes in. The skills of the team really have to come to the forefront then. If the run order says that we have to start on a live and we run the opening titles and we lose the satellite link to the truck, that's when your leadership skills really kick in and you have to lead the team down a very challenging path.
And then you're back to doing the promo next. So Fred next, okay? Fred next for story 3.
The biggest challenge is keeping your nerve, basically, when everything is going belly up. You have to make sure that the presenters are completely clear on where we're going next, making sure that they're briefed on every story we're coming to. Sometimes it might actually mean that I'm telling them about the next story when they're reading the current story, so they're having to listen in their ear and I'm telling them information about what's coming next.
Then it's camera 2 for Arctic Convoy.
And they are making it look as seamless as possible to the viewer, so the viewer never actually knows if anything's going wrong.
1 minute to air.
22 now. Of the titles. Here we go. 4, 1, 2, and cue.
Good evening to you. At 86 years old, Lawrence Smith has been through a lot and seen a lot. He doesn't want for much. That is, except for a medal he's owed before it's too late.
Mr. Smith is one of a handful of surviving veterans who carried out dangerous missions to support the Russian forces in World War II. These Arctic convoys claimed 3,000 sailors. Martin Dowse takes up the story.
On April Sound, nicely done.
Talk me through them.
At home in the New Forest, Lawrence Smith showed me his war service medals won as a teenage naval volunteer. But there's a significant absence along this row of decorations. Anything to recognise his time spent on one of the most vital and dangerous operations of the war, the Arctic convoys.
Oh, bitterly cold. Ice formed on everything. The upper deck was just superstructure. It was just ice. You could see them blow up. But by that you'd moved on. You didn't stop. You see, that was a thing.
What would be the fate for those people?
Well, if they didn't get rescued within a few hours, they'd just die.
Lawrence is not a well man. He suffers from angina, and he's one of the youngest of the few hundred surviving convoy veterans, the war's forgotten heroes.
It was definitely overlooked. I'd love to have one. I'd love to have one. I should feel proud of it. Yeah. But when? Because I don't think I've got much longer to go.
3, 2,
Martin Dowse, ITV
1,
News.
0.
Cannabis worth 600. For now, though, from the team here at ITV Meridian, thank you very much for watching.
Take care. After a hard day's work, the Meridian team are debriefed by the head of news on how the day went and what could be improved. First to be discussed is Martin's story on the Arctic Convoy medals, and it's a huge success.
The Arctic Convoys piece, I thought this piece was really nicely put together, and I thought Martin took a very sensitive approach to that. It was very clear in the sequence of the opening to that report how he was effectively, it almost felt like he was being quite compassionate with that gentleman, which was really nice to see, and that's what our viewers expect. And I loved the choice of NSOT from the gentleman who said, I don't know if I've got much longer to go. For me, watching that report, I absolutely then connected with it and thought, that's why he needs that medal, because he may be dead in a couple of months' time.
Well, there's only one thing left for me to do, go home and have a nice cup of tea. And that, as a very old children's presenter used to say, is how for now. Get me bags. Good night. See you soon. Doesn't normally work. Ta-ra.